welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am the Woodland Witch. And in my most recent YouTube poll, you guys voted to see an introduction to herbalism video. If you didn't vote for the introduction to herbalism video, don't worry, those other videos are still coming as well. So in this introduction, I'm really going to try not to get carried away. Herbalism tends to be a little bit of a rabbit hole, so I'm really going to try to rein it in and keep it at just a strict beginner introduction video. But I wanted to share some knowledge and some resources for you to get your practice going. Everything I'm going to say in this video is all from research I've conducted myself. I'm sure that you're still going to have questions by the end of this video, so I really suggest grabbing a journal, grabbing a notebook, writing everything down, writing these resources, writing these topics down so you can further your research and your learning moving forward. Herbalism is folk and traditional medicinal practices utilizing plants, herbs, and plant extracts, and herbalists are known for utilizing those properties in healing practices. I kind of grew up on herbalism. My mom was very big on alternative healing and alternative medicine. She slapped chickweed on literally anything and everything as a kid. So when I grew up, it was kind of something that was always in the back of my mind. It was always an option. It was always something I thought about. But I didn't really start crafting on my own until about 3 years ago. And that's when I really dove into my studies. And that was mainly because, like a lot of people, I was failed by the allopathic and modern healthcare system. Now, it's not to say that the traditional and modern healthcare system is bad by any means, or it's unnecessary or should be just completely ruled out. I do not think that at all. But in this specific situation, I didn't feel like I was receiving the care and the help that I needed and the treatment that I felt I deserved. So I took matters into my own hands. I started studying herbal medicine and looking up remedies and things that I could do to help myself. So when I first started practicing herbalism, I didn't want to call myself an herbalist, and that was mainly because I didn't feel like I knew enough. And to be honest, you're never going to know enough. So if you want to become an herbalist, you're an herbalist. It takes study, dedication, and a lot of effort. And if that's something you're putting into it, you're an herbalist. You're going to see a lot of resources on how to further your studies and how to maybe become an herbalist. You're going to see courses that say, oh, become a certified herbalist, become a registered herbalist, XYZ. And that's all well and good, but there really is no governing over these specific practices. There's no one ruling organization that looks to qualifications for herbalists or anything like that. So if you want to become a certified herbalist, great. You will find degrees and things that you can do in college to further your education, folk medicine or alternative medicine degrees, things like that. For me, I personally didn't go the certified herbalist route. I didn't feel like it was necessary. But there were a lot of places where I did take courses and classes. The first place being the Herbal Academy. Herbal Academy is an amazing source. I have taken so many of their classes. They can be a little expensive depending on the course that you're doing, but they also allow you to do payments, and they're very thorough and very in-depth. You get access to them for life, and they usually come with some sort of course journal or some sort of notebook or things to help you further along the course that you can look back on as a resource. So quite frankly, I think it's very, very much worth it. They've got amazing resources and information for furthering your practice. Another really great thing about Herbal Academy is a lot of times they do free courses. I want to say every couple of months they offer something, some sort of free course, and that is maybe it's seasonally. I'm not 100% sure, but I've taken many free courses with them, and obviously they're a lot shorter than the ones that you're going to pay for. But when you're trying to gather as much information as you want, especially in something like herbalism, that's a fantastic opportunity for you to get free education. They give you an ample amount of time to complete the course. You can take as much notes, reference back as much as you need to. I think it's a fantastic thing to check out and keep updated on. They usually post about it on their Instagram, and I have notifications on, so it alerts me every time they post about a new course. Another place that has courses is the Chestnut School of Learning. I haven't personally taken any of their courses, but I've heard really, really great things about them. I think it's similar to Herbal Academy, where they do like longer courses. I haven't seen if they do any free ones, so that's something to look into too, but that's another great source that you can check out. A name you're going to hear a lot when it comes to herbalism is Rosemary Gladstar. She, I think, started becoming really big in the 70s. She's an American herbalist. So much of what I know is from Rosemary Gladstar. She's an amazing woman. She's so educated. So much of her information has been beneficial to my personal herbalism journey. Anything and everything you want to know about herbalism, you can learn from her. If you type her name in and a specific topic, whether that's fire cider, medicinal uses for herbs, common ailments, even, you know, beauty products, things like that, beauty remedies, or, you know, things like that, she has books on it. She also has a website. She offers courses as well. So if you're wanting to take courses straight from her, you can do that as well. There's a couple books also that I found very helpful when starting my herbalism practice. They're books I reference all the time and constantly look back to. First book was actually a gift from my mama. It's called The School of Natural Healing. I've talked about this book on my TikTok and it's one of my favorites. So the first thing is it will go into specific ailments that you may have. This one is coughing, cramps, cysts, which is primarily why I got into herbalism in the first place. So it'll have remedies, things that you can do, herbs that correspond with those ailments that you might want to look into and further your research with. You can even go directly to the herb itself. And now when you go to the herb itself, it will have different extracts, tinctures, infusions, things that you can do on how to utilize that herb specifically, administration, how to administer it, dosaging, things like that. There's different formulas, there's combinations of how it might interact or help you more when it's working with a different herb. So this specifically is a combination of turkey rhubarb and ginger. So you might be able to see a combination that might work for a specific ailment that you're having. If you're wanting to forage these things in your area, there's growth characteristics, time of year that you might be able to find them, what kind of climate you'll find them in. There's also common names and alternative names. So this book I highly, highly recommend. There's also a glossary in the back of herbalism terms that you might come across, and if you need to reference them, they are all in here. The next book is a little bit older, and I actually thrifted it, and it's called The Complete Guide to Herbal Medicine. The reason I like this book so much and combine it with the School of Natural Healing so often is because this goes into interactions. So I've spoke about this before. Herbalism is not a one-size-fits-all system. So the way that an herb or a remedy might affect me, it might not affect you or someone else the same way. If you have underlying conditions, autoimmune issues, if you're pregnant, if you're taking medications already, this goes into all of the interactions that you may have or you may encounter. This book also has little passages of what research shows, what scientists have studied about this specific herb. Now, I will say this book is a little bit older, so I would fact check those, look and see if maybe there's been more research done or if there's more information about a specific herb. There's also extended references in here too. There's books and other resources that you can look into for where they got this specific information from. You can compare, fact check. Like I said, I really like it because it goes into the interactions. So for instance, with cat, K-H-A-T, with cat, it helps with high blood pressure, liver damage, things like that. The interactions, certain drugs that may alter the action or produce unwanted side effects, decongestant, drugs for a regular heartbeat, drugs for lowering blood pressure, things like that, which is very important to know. When studying herbalism, you want to make sure that you're not taking anything that's going to make you get worse, that it's not going to negatively affect someone else in a way because of an underlying condition or something they're already taking. There's a lot of risks and there's a lot of benefits, and it's important to know that before you're recommending or ingesting or taking any kind of herbal remedies. Last book is a little bit of magic and a little bit of herbalism. And this is the master book of herbalism. I'm obviously a folk witch and a folk herbalist, so I love this book. It goes into the lore of specific herbs and specific plants, which I think is where we get a lot of the healing aspects from certain things, by looking at the lore, seeing what people did, the anthropology of the people of a specific time, and kind of seeing how they utilize these herbs. And that's what this book is great for. It also has remedial things in here, how to utilize them. The glossary in here is also really great, similar to the School of Natural Healing. If there's specific things that you don't know, if you want to know what an adaptogen is, if you don't know what a liniment is, you can reference back and see all of those things in here. So now we've learned resources on how to begin our herbalism journey, how to study, how to gather information. Now let's get to the herbs. So you're wanting to source herbs. There's a lot of things that go into sourcing herbs. There's a few ways that you can do it. The first one is growing yourself. It's probably the most risk-free way to do it. You know what's going into it. You know there's nothing on it. I used to live on a couple acres, so I used to grow my own lavender, my own chamomile, things like that. I know a lot of people can't do that, so there's obviously outsourcing herbs that you can do. I personally shop at Mountain Rose Herbs or Star West Botanicals. I like Mountain Rose Herbs because you can get a lot of herbs in bulk. They range from 4 ounces, I think, to a pound, and when you're in herbalism, you tend to go through a lot of herbs, so I like them. They're very cost affordable and they're all ethically sourced. Mountain Rose Herbs was actually founded by Rosemary Gladstar, once again hearing her name, and so I just think they're an amazing company. Star West Botanicals is also really good if you're wanting to just try a little bit of something out. They have smaller options for you to just test something out. You can also look locally. I have tons of spice and tea shops nearby, and a lot of the herbs we use can actually be acquired in the kitchen. So if you look locally, you can maybe test out an ounce of something that you're just wanting to see how it affects you, see if it's working, see if it maybe helps you in some way, and that way you don't have to get such a large amount. The last option for sourcing herbs is foraging. Foraging can be a little iffy. You want to be really careful. You don't want to be doing something that isn't allowed in your area. You don't want to be taking plants out of a conservation area or taking something that may be endangered. For instance, slippery elm bark is endangered due to overharvesting, and the Dutch elm disease, which has taken out a lot of the elm species because the inner bark of slippery elm is what is used. Harvesting it in the incorrect way or in an unethical way can actually kill the tree. So look into herbs that are endangered, make sure you're sourcing them ethically, make sure you're sourcing them respectfully. So look into these herbs, make sure they're being ethically sourced, make sure they're not being over harvested, make sure they are being utilized and respected in the way that they should. Certain things you're not going to want to wild source yourself because of these reasons. It might be something you just want to steer clear from altogether. There's a lot of herbs that have similar benefits, and it might be just beneficial for you to look at something else. It's also important to look at the area you're foraging in. I foraged a lot in my backyard. I knew nothing was being sprayed there. I knew there wasn't anything harmful in that space because I was caring for it myself. But you want to be careful if you're harvesting anything out in your natural area. If you're in a park or on the side of the road, you kind of want to avoid that, specifically just because of, runoff and pesticides being sprayed. You just don't really know what's in it. But with that being said, there's a lot of things that you can find just in your backyard. Dandelion, dead nettle, red clover. Those are all things that I used to find, and they're perfectly safe and beneficial for you. So check out your local area and just in your backyard in general, and you might find something that you can utilize in your practice. So now that you've sourced your herbs, how do we utilize them? There's tons of ways to utilize your herbs. There's decoctions, teas, oil infusions, tinctures. I will say the easiest things to work with in the beginning are oil infusions and tinctures. Tinctures are an alcohol extraction. It is a combination of an herb and at least 40 to 60% alcohol or 80 to 120 proof. You can use vodka, gin, rum. Those are all very common. It just really is up to preference. I tend to use vodka because it doesn't taste as strong. And what you'll do with that is take a mason jar. You'll fill the jar about halfway with herbs. It does vary whether you're using dry or fresh herbs, so just look into that, and the measurements may be a little different depending on whether you're using dried or fresh. And then you're going to top with your alcohol, and you're going to let it sit for 6 weeks. Once it's strained, it can be added to tea, it can be added to a cocktail, and the dosaging may vary as well. Just mess around with it, do what works for you. Look into the dosing, how often you can take it. Sometimes you want to do maybe a couple days on, a couple days off. It really just depends. Another thing that's really easy to work with in the beginning is oil infusions. Now this is going to be an infusion of a carrier oil and an herb of your choice. There's tons of different carrier oils. There's olive oil, fractionated coconut oil, almond oil. There's tons of options to choose from. I would look into what you're specifically going to be using it for. So if you're using a salve or wanting to do a balm of some kind, olive oil might be a good bet, or even fractionated coconut oil. Olive oil scent can be a little rough, so if you want something with a little less of a scent, fractionated coconut oil is a great option. These oils are very nourishing to the skin, so for something that you're going to be rubbing on the skin, it's going to be something that's very moisturizing, nourishing, things like that. I tend to do a 1-to-2 ratio when it comes to this, but you can mess around with it and see what works for you. I will do 1 cup of dried herb to 2 cups of my carrier oil. You can add essential oils to it if you want. For scent, it really just depends. Just make sure that you are looking into an essential oil that is safe to be used topically and safe on the skin. Another really great way to utilize herbs in your everyday life is in the kitchen. This is where we tend to use herbs most commonly anyway, and it's a really great way to kind of get in a routine of utilizing the benefits of these things in your everyday life. I make a lot of fermented honeys. I also make syrups. A honey that I make a lot is garlic honey. Fermented garlic honey is something I have used since my pregnancy. I had really high blood pressure in my pregnancy, and it's something that helps lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure. It's great for the immune system. It can help with blood thinning. So after my pregnancy, I continued to take it because I did hemorrhage after my pregnancy. So I kept from blood thinning and hemorrhaging and making sure everything was healing okay. I also use a lot of syrup. So lavender syrup is one of the things I use a lot. I put it in tea at night just for a calming effect. to kind of relax. Elderberry syrup is another great, it's immune boost. You can just take a spoonful of it every day. Helps with cold and flu symptoms, all sorts of things like that. 4 Thieves vinegar, I use that in cooking. I use it in salad dressing. It's just an amazing, amazing source of herbs. So look in your kitchen, see what you have. It's a really great way to get in a routine and incorporate these things into your everyday life. All right, that is our introduction to herbalism. I hope you guys like this video. Like I said, you probably still have more questions. This was strictly just an intro video. I hope that you journaled and I hope that you took notes so you can further your research and your learning moving forward. Herbalism has changed my life for the better in so many ways, and I hope that it does the same for you. I will see you guys in the next one.